Hey everyone, it's Enrique here from Enrique on the Floor, Rosary and Rhythm. Sorry, it's a little chilly, so I had to put on my beanie here, but I do have hair. We'll be discussing the lies of Ronald Reagan, neoliberalism, and Pope Leo the 14th and 13th. Hope you don't mind. I have a little bit of EDM playing in the background. Um, I'm kind of been on TikTok quite a bit. My channel over there, Rosary and Rhythm, as well as Enrique on the Floor, are doing rather well over there. I see we have some little effects here that we can use. We have stickers, questions and answers, and even a little retouch. Let me put the retouch on so I can make myself look more beautiful. Green screen effects. I guess we could do green screens like this, but that's pretty cool. I don't need a green screen because I have lights. But it's nice to know. We also have lighting on and lighting off. Okay, that's cool. Checking out some of these features we have here. Let me turn down the music a tiny bit. Yeah, so Catholic channel, Catholic content here. Um, I have my name's Enrique. I go by Enrique or Kike, whichever one. I was raised by the name Kike, but I had to give it up because they didn't allow it in schools. They told me that was not my real name. So mostly been known by Enrique recently, but I'm trying to re-embrace the name Kike. I'm autistic. I'm a hospice nurse. I used to be an art and photography teacher, so I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts and a Bachelor of Science in Nursing. I've done hospital work during the 2020s when all that, the disease that shall not be named was circulating. And now I do hospice care, end of life care. But I dance. I have a dance channel where I use therapeutic dance for healing. I've searched the world for meaning, world religions, philosophies, atheism, spiritualities. I am Catholic now. I found that it's grounded me and given me a place to take all those woo-woo ideas. Hey, thank you for chiming in, by the way. Not chiming in, but thank you for watching. I see I've got some viewers in here. I wish I could see y'all's names. But I did kind of explore the world, New Age, atheism, all kinds of spiritualities, kind of deconstruct everything, and I landed on Catholicism as something that grounds me. So I find like a lot of spiritualities are really, they have some cool ideas, but they're very woo-woo, and I just like, and Catholicism takes all that woo-woo and grounds it in the physical world with the incarnation, with the Eucharist, and it takes all that woo-woo and gives it teeth so it can speak to the United Nations, to economies, to world powers, to militaries, because Catholicism takes all that woo-woo and gives it teeth and gives it a body to live in. And I find that it grounds my, I am autistic. I'm a nurse, a hospice nurse, autistic with ADHD. And I did a little intro video where I'm talking about these paradoxes, where part of my brain is very expressionistic, part of it's very dogmatic. I have this back and forth between ADHD and autism, and I'm always trying to reconcile opposites. But today's conversation is focused on neoliberalism, Ronald Reagan lying to us, trickle-down economics, and how we are being fleeced and we are being exploited in America. And Catholic social doctrine has been here for over 100 years, and it's here to save the day. And if you're Catholic, if you're Christian, if you're just looking for, even if you're not a theist, Catholic social doctrine is still a beautiful, maybe the answer for our way forward in this world today, that we're currently living under empires. Hey, gal, thank you for the thumbs up. I wish I could see y'all's names coming in and y'all's chat. Is there a way for me to see the chat? I wish I could see the chat and stuff. Chat filters, top messages, community moderation, automate chat translation. Yeah. But yeah, I just want to thank you for watching. So Catholic social doctrine is the way forward for us. If you're Christian, if you're Catholic, even if you're atheist, don't get caught up on the word Catholic. Pope Leo the 13th, 100 years ago, he saw the monopolies were ravaging America. The monopolies, remember, we lived in a time 100 years ago when the oil, steel, railroad monopolies were so freaking powerful. Hey, interesting, yeah. The Catholic the monopolies were so powerful that they were buying the government, just like today. They had taken over the government. they were buying the politicians, and President Taft and others decided that we had to pass antitrust laws to break apart the monopolies because the corporations had pretty much paid off our government. They had to break apart the steel, railroad, oil, these monopolies. They knew that you could not have these powerful corporations buying the politicians and still have a free country. So those monopolies were broken apart. They were heavily taxed, and that money was then fed back into society, hospitals, healthcare, education, pensions. And so the baby boomer generation, they could live in a time when they could live on one income. You know, one wage earner could pay for the house, could send their kids to college, they could retire because they had broken apart those monopolies and taxed them so that money could fund the middle class. So back in the 80s, we were lied to in America. Ronald Reagan came, and he was an actor, right? He's an actor. He's not a politician. He's an actor, just like our current president's an actor. He's not a politician. He's also a real estate agent, but he's not a politician. So the Heritage Foundation went to Ronald Reagan. They gave him a document called the Leadership Mandate, and they told Ronald Reagan to pretty much sell us this idea. Hey, I'm Enrique. I'm a hospice nurse. I'm Catholic. I'm an inventor, dreamer. I love to talk about ethics, AI, the future of this country, the future of the world, basically, that we're facing all these struggles, and we need to come up with a way forward. As a Catholic, I want to talk about how Catholic social teaching can give us an answer. Don't get caught up on the word Catholic. There is like, what are we going to do? You know, all of us, we should have been educated, but in public school, we were not educated. We were just taught enough to get us to be workers. We were dumbed down to be exploited and become workers. We should have been educated to understand how we freaking got here. How did I get here? How did our country get here? How did the world get here? And then to be able to critique it to make it better. Do we like the way the world is today? And can we make it better? The only way forward is repentance, brother. Okay, yeah, I believe that. That's good. Repentance is great. Repentance is how we work on ourselves and the world. I don't know if you're Catholic or just call yourself like non-denominational. I was raised Baptist, Pentecostal. I became Catholic back in 2014. Raised very anti-Catholic to believe all this horrible stuff about Catholics. But Catholic social teaching has been around for 100 years because the monopolies were here 100 years ago. Pope Leo XIII wrote a document called Rerum Novarum, an Orthodox monk living in South Africa. That's awesome. I love my Orthodox brothers and sisters. I know we have some little bit of beef between Catholics and Orthodox, but I think we have a lot of stuff in common with the Theotokos, with the sacraments, with the Eucharist, apostolic succession and such, a respect for the past, a respect for history. And I value that. And I value prayers, meditation, mysticism, very important stuff that we need. But currently, so 100 years ago, the monopolies were destroying our country. And the government stepped in and broke them up, right? So in the 1980s, Ronald Reagan shows up, sponsored by the Heritage Foundation, which is back with President Trump again. They're still in the picture. He pretty much told us that we had to deregulate the corporations because when these corporations became rich and powerful, we were going to see the money trickle down. They called it trickle-down economics. The correct word for it is neoliberalism. So if you look up neoliberalism, it's this idea that corporations need to be free and they can get as big and powerful as they want because that money is, once the corporations like Microsoft, Tesla, Amazon, Walmart, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, when they become rich and powerful, we're going to watch that money trickle down to us. That's called trickle-down economics. It's called neoliberalism. Ronald Reagan sold us that. You know, he was an actor. He told us that. We believed him. But I want you to ask yourself, since the 1980s, has the middle class grown? Have our wages grown? Has our quality of life grown? Because remember, the boomers could live on one income. There could be one person working and they could afford to pay their mortgage, to send their kids to college, to retire on one income. Those monopolies had been destroyed 100 years ago, right? But they're back. They're back because we were sold this idea that as the corporations get so freaking powerful, that money is going to trickle down. And even today, so that was pushed by the Heritage Foundation in their document called the Leadership Mandate, and then Ronald Reagan sold it to us. So now we have the corporations, the monopolies that were destroyed 100 years ago, they're back. They're back with a vengeance. So Pope Leo XIII, he addressed this back in the 1890s, turn of the century. He wrote a document called Rerum Novarum, where he said, like, what are we going to do? Because again, the Pope, the Catholic Church, they wanted to avoid the bloody revolutions that they were seeing across the world. How do we create a world where the rich and the workers don't destroy each other, where they work together in harmony? So Pope Leo XIII, 100 years ago, addressed this in his document, Rerum Novarum. St. Pope John Paul II asked the church to compile all their teachings together that they've been, looking at society, looking at philosophy, psychology, economics, governance for 2,000 years. How do we put it all together in a way forward? So they had a compendium of Catholic social doctrine. St. Pope John Paul II kind of compiled it together. He didn't write it. And now we have Pope Leo XIV, who's also addressing the state of the world today, the monopolies, the corporations, the rights of workers, the rights of the poor. And what the hell are we going to do with AI? Because now that AI is here, we're going to have automation, robots. They're going to take our jobs. These AI automated machines are going to take our jobs. So what do we do? And so Pope Leo chose the name Pope Leo XIV to pick up the mantle of Pope Leo XIII, addressing the rights of the workers. Because the monopolies are back with a vengeance. They're back and they're watching us. So they're watching you, they're watching me right now. Every single word coming out of my mouth is being listened to by the corporations. So not only are the corporations back, the monopolies are back, now they're surveilling all of us. They know where we are, they know what we believe. We got Palantir, we got all these, they're keeping tabs on all of us. So the monopolies are back. We took off the restrictions. Even today, the Heritage Foundation's telling Trump, tax them less, give them more freedom. We didn't learn our lesson. We didn't learn our history that 100 years ago when these corporations were here, they were buying our government in the US. They bought our government, they bought the politicians. And so I have learning to wake up from the dream that I was gaslit. You were gaslit. We were told that we live in a country where everyone is equal, that we were, given equal, we were endowed by our creator with certain unalienable rights, that all men are created equal. That we had this story told that we all have an equal voice. The reality, though, is even if 80% of us believe that we want something done in our country, it's not going to happen unless the rich billionaires say they want it. If the corporations and the rich don't want a law to pass, it's not going to pass. No matter, even if 80% of the population says, yes, we want this, unless the billionaires want it, it's not going to pass. We don't live in a democracy. Our government has pretty much been bought by the corporations. We live what I like to call in the United Corporations of America. We think we live in 50 states, but really we live in about 100 companies. We're all a piece of whether the military, the agriculture, the healthcare, the education, we're all a part of these companies. And we think that we vote, but really it's our corporations that lobby Congress and they pass the laws for us. And we're pretty much we have to be obedient workers, right? And we think we vote, but actually the government listens to the lobbyists, the corporations. So we're living in the United Corporations of America. That's the way I see it. And we do have the illusion of 50 states, but our politicians are lobbied by the corporations and the corporations pass the laws. But yeah, Ronald Reagan, he told us, he lied to us. He said, unshackle the companies, and as they get rich, that money's going to trickle down. So as Christians, as Catholics, why does this matter to us? Because at the last judgment, when Christ judges the world, he didn't say, hey, good job. You belong to the Orthodox Church. Enter paradise. Oh, good job. You received the sacraments. Enter into paradise. You went to church. You went to mass. You went to confession. Enter into paradise. He says, he asks, what did you do with the sick? Did you heal them? Did you visit them? What did you do with the hungry, the homeless? What did you do with the people that were in prisons and detention centers? Because what you did to them is what you did to me. You took care of them. Good job. Enter to my right. Enter into eternal paradise. You ignored the sick. You ignored the homeless. You ignored the hungry. You ignored the people in detention camps. He goes, that was me. That was me on the street. That was me without health care. That was me in the detention centers. You ignored me. So be cast out into outer darkness. That's why it should matter to believers, to Christians, what happens to the homeless, what happens to the sick, what happens to the people in detention camps, the unjust, because whatever happens to the poor and the weak, that is what's happening to Christ. And as much as we ignore the suffering, we are ignoring Christ. And As much as there are people who would like to think that when, at the last judgment, Christ is going to say, did you belong to the right church? Or did you say the sinner's prayer? Or did you just trust in me? Oh, check, you did it. That's not what Scripture says. That's not what Christ taught. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but those who do the will of my Father. At the judgment, he says, what did you do with the sick, the homeless, the hungry, those in detention camps? That was me. You said you loved me, but that was me. Naked, cold, hungry, starving, homeless, locked up in prisons, and you did nothing. Your faith was dead. That's why it should matter to us. So anyways, Catholic social doctrine. So the Catholic Church has been thinking about good governance for a long time, and especially with the rights of workers recently. What do? We have these two extremes. Either you're going to be like this, like completely capitalistic, free market, do whatever the companies want, or you're going to be like, believe in big, powerful government, communism, like government takes over everything. But they're both mistakes. They're both extremes. The Catholic social doctrine says human dignity must come first. Human dignity must come first. Thank you for the taps. Thank you for being listening. Catholic social doctrine says human dignity must come first. So as Americans, we are lied to. We are taught this false binary. Either you're going to be a really strict conservative free market person believing in Christian nationalism, or you're going to be this bleeding heart, liberal, emotional person. That's your two choices, basically. The Catholic Church has already thought about this for over a century. They've been thinking about governance and society for 2,000 years. They wrote Catholic social doctrine, which we're not taught this in the U.S. because they want us to choose these extremes that are both stupid. They get us fighting. Nothing changes. I think Catholic social doctrine is the way forward because it says, you know what? Corporations left to themselves become sinful. They become greedy. When they're unrestrained, they become monopolies and they crush people. They take away human dignity. And human dignity must come first because we're made in the image of God. Corporations exist to serve humanity. They don't exist to exploit humanity and to take as much from people as possible. So that's a mistake. Unrestrained corporations become evil and greedy and they crush human dignity. And the Catholic Church says that needs to be kept in check. They exist for the people. Corporations must exist to make the world better for the people, not to exploit the people. If they become exploiting, if Amazon, McDonald's, Walmart, Microsoft, if they start exploiting the workers, not taking care of the workers, then they are not serving their purpose on earth. They become exploiters, and that's evil. So corporations need to have guardrails to do their duty to their workers. Okay, so that's one view. The other extreme is the opposite, where you go way to the left and you're like, no, we need a powerful government to control everything and regulate everything. Maybe like extreme forms of communism, right? Nothing wrong with a good government, strong government, but when the government starts taking away human dignity, when it's taking away freedom of thought, freedom of speech, freedom of criticism, where people feel crushed by the state, then they also are taking away human dignity. Unrestrained corporations crush people, unrestrained governments crush people. Both government and corporations exist to serve human dignity. Now, some people would say, oh, that sounds fine. I just want to be rich, and the rich are awesome. But the Catholic Church adds something that says, and this human dignity must begin with the most vulnerable, with the most marginalized, beginning with the weakest. This is my corporate side. Corporations must serve human dignity, governments must serve human dignity, and it must begin with the most vulnerable. It can't be like, okay, well, corporations and government exist to serve human dignity, so let's bless the rich. No. Preferential option for the poor. They must come first. Don't leave anyone behind. Don't focus on making the rich richer. Human dignity from the corporations, human dignity from governments, and begin with the most marginalized. That means the economically poor, the people that have been left out because of their race, their religion, their sexuality, people that are on the margins or being left out of the system. Okay, human life is a right to all, and the Catholic Church would say the right to life includes water, food, shelter, healthcare, education, opportunity. That should be a human right. people should not exist under the threat of you better produce and do something, or you better be useful or you get no water. That is wrong. The Catholic Church would say life is a human right. We don't threaten people like, you better be productive and make money or you get no food. You better be productive in society and make something and be productive or you get no shelter. Human dignity and human life should be a right to all. Food, shelter, healthcare, education, opportunity. Is there still room for capitalism and all that stuff and making money? Sure, but not by threatening human life and saying, you better make us money in society or your life is valueless and you get discarded. No health care for you, no home for you, no food for you, no water for you because you're not producing. So that's called Catholic social doctrine. Human dignity must come first. Corporations exist to serve human dignity, governments exist to serve human dignity, and we begin with the weakest. As our society begins to advance, we don't leave anyone behind. It's not, oh, we're going to advance and all these tech developments are going to stay at the top of the pyramid and the billionaires get to go to outer space and the billionaires get all these stressful treatments and implants and special health care. Everyone else can go to the streets and be cold and hungry. No. If we're going to advance human dignity and we advance together, Catholic social doctrine, that's what I'm talking about. Because we've been lied to. Like I said, right now we are, as Americans, I know I was lied to. I was raised evangelical, and I was always told, well, free market capitalism, that's God's way. Socialism and communism, that's the devil. No laws on business, that's God's way. Any kind of laws on business, that's socialism, communism, that's evil. And so most of the world has free healthcare, including like Canada, Sweden, Denmark. Lots of developed countries have healthcare. But as soon as we mention free healthcare in the US, we're like, socialism, that's the devil. But yeah, like most of the developed world has free healthcare. And so we get gaslit, we get lied to in the United States. We get told things like, if you provide free healthcare for the poor, that's stealing because you're taking the money from workers who are productive and you're paying for the healthcare of people who are not productive. And that's robbery. That's evil. That's stealing. It's anti-godly. Boo, even though most of the world already has free healthcare, right? And it's working for them. But then under this Christian guise, we're told when you pay your taxes against your will, you didn't choose to pay taxes, but when the government takes your taxes, they're going to use that money for jets and bombs and, overthrowing regimes and, bombing places against your will. You didn't choose that. But if they spend their money on military and destroying people, that's fine. That's not stealing. But if they take that money and take care of people who are sick, that's stealing. A lot of brainwashing going on, guys. It's like the corporations will tell us what they want us to know so they can maximize profit. If the corporations are required to take care of their employees, if Amazon was required to make sure Amazon employees had retirement, could take vacation, could rest, could have access to good health care, could send their kids to college, Jeff Bezos has enough money to do that. But if that was the moral standard, they would lose profit. So no, they're not going to tell us that. Socialism is evil. Ugh, scary. Ooh, spooky. Therefore, the Amazon workers struggle. Again, we're being it's this twisted version of Christianity. It's Christian nationalism that's like, the corporations must be completely free. That's God's way. So they become monopolies. The monopolies that we should have learned from 100 years ago, that they were taking over our country. And we had to break them apart with antitrust laws. Now there's this, it's Christian to just liberate the monopolies to be as powerful as they want. That's Christian. And then they begin to exploit the poor. And our life sucks. And this is what makes it the most evil, guys. When the corporations and the monopolies are exploiting us, taking from us, and we realize, hey, life is getting hard. Instead of looking at where all our money went while the billionaires got richer, their wages went straight up while our wages didn't. Instead of looking at them and say, hey, all the money went up there, they start telling us, whose fault it is? It's those brown people crossing the border, the ones that are working in the sun, the ones that are building roads and building houses, who are struggling to pay rent, who are struggling to buy food. It's their fault. That's where the money's going. That's why everything's so expensive. Don't look at us. Don't look at the CEOs and shareholders and where all the money's being sucked up to the top and they're growing like they're. We got our first trillionaire. Freaking Elon Musk is a trillionaire. That's 1,000 billions. You know, a billion is 1,000 millions. A trillion is 1,000 billions. So this is like, this is crazy. All this money is being sucked to the top. And when our life becomes hard, they say, don't look at us. Look at the brown people crossing the border. They're the ones making life expensive. But if you look at where the money went, it got sucked to the top. But they're like, don't look at us. It's their fault. Go get them. So then they create a culture war. They get us fighting each other. Nothing changes. We never ask for change. We should have learned our lesson 100 years ago that when the monopolies show up, they take all the resources. They buy our government. They buy our politicians. We learned that lesson in the 1890s when the monopolies were here. We broke them apart. They were buying our government. We lost. They were taking all the money, buying our government. We had to break them apart. We taxed them, and all that money created the baby boomer generation who could live on one income, send their kids to college, retire, buy a home on one income because the corporations were being kept in check and they were forced to pour that money into society. Ronald Reagan shows up with the Heritage Foundation. He's like, trickle down economics. Take off all the rules. Take off all the restrictions on the corporations. Watch them get rich and powerful. Oh, yeah. And that money's going to trickle down. Well, that was the big lie. We bought it. That was stupid. We didn't know our history. We didn't know that when corporations show up, they buy the government. Ronald Reagan lied to us. And that was under the Heritage Foundation, right? The Heritage Foundation worked with Ronald Reagan. They gave him a document called the Leadership Mandate, which was all about deregulating the corporations, letting them get powerful. And he sold us this thing called Reaganomics. Watch that money trickle down, which never came. It wasn't trickle down economics where the money from the corporations trickles down to the middle class. It was trickle up economics. All of our money went to the top of the pyramid. It got vacuumed up and stayed there. It was a lie. Well, then Trump shows up. He's also working with the Heritage Foundation. His project, his document's called Project 2025. But it's the same thing. Deregulate the corporations, give them tax breaks, let the corporations get more powerful. They freaking bought our government now. Our government doesn't listen to people. It listens to the lobby. It listens to the corporations. We lost our government. And there's nobody here that's trying to challenge the corporations like we did 100 years ago. Our current government is doing what they can to grow the corporations even stronger. They're in partnership together. This is not a democracy. Even if us people want something to pass legally, if 80% of us agree and we all vote for something to pass, it's not going to pass unless the corporations want it to pass. They have bought our government just like they did 100 years ago. And I think Catholic social doctrine is the way forward. We have to call out the corporations for crushing human dignity and say that's evil. When the corporations exist for themselves and they're exploiting workers, they're not giving workers time with family. They're not giving workers time with their babies. They're not giving workers retirement, time to rest. They're not giving workers access to doctors and healthcare, ability to pay for education. Then the corporations are now exploiting the people, and that is wicked. And Christians should say that is wicked. When corporations are crushing people and taking away their dignity, that is wicked. Currently, we've been brainwashed. We're stupid. We're Americans. We forgot our history. We've been brainwashed. Oh, let the corporations be free because that's God's way. We didn't realize that 100 years ago, the corporations take over, they create monopolies, they buy our government. We didn't learn our lesson. We were dumbed down. We didn't learn our lesson. Christians should also be standing up to government saying when governments become totalitarian and they take away the rights of the citizens, they don't respect human life, they don't respect the people, then that is also wicked. That's the third way, guys. It's not, well, let the corporations be super strong and free because that becomes corruption. It crushes human dignity. But the answer is not, well, let the government take over everything because when the government's super strong, they can also crush human dignity. Both have to exist to serve the people, governments and corporations. So human dignity must come first. And we begin with the most vulnerable. It's called a preferential option for the poor. As we change society, the marginalized and vulnerable must come first. Homeless veterans, the mentally ill, the sick, the disabled, women, children, elderly, the most vulnerable, LGBTQ, anyone who has been left out of the conversation, who does not have access to human dignity, must come first so that when we rise, when corporations begin to serve humanity and governments begin to serve humanity, we don't leave anyone behind. We have to move forward as a people, human dignity first. That's pretty much Catholic social teaching. We try to handle things at the lowest level possible. So if we can fix things at the local level, we don't need the federal, we don't need the global to take care of it. We'll take care of it here at home. If we can't take care of it locally, then it goes to city. If we can't take care of it there, it goes to county, it goes to state, it goes to... But we deal with things as low as possible. And we focus on a shared humanity. It's called solidarity. If one part suffers, we all suffer. If one part's under injustice, we're all suffering injustice. We look out for each other. It's called solidarity. Anyways, that's just where I think that we can avoid the pitfalls that we've seen. When corporations get crazy strong, they crush people. They treat us like we don't matter. They exploit us. And when governments get super strong, they can also crush people and take away their human dignity. Both must serve human dignity, beginning with the most vulnerable. So that's why I think that Catholic social teaching is the answer and the way forward. The word Catholic is a hang-up for some people. They're like, oh, Catholics are evil. They're here. They're going to force the Inquisition. They're going to make us all become Catholic. No. Freedom of religion is a part of human dignity. Nobody can be forced what they should believe about the meaning of life, about God, about religion, about the world. When you force someone and threaten someone in what they have to believe, then that is taking away their human dignity. So this Catholic social teaching leaves room for Muslims, Buddhists, atheists, witches, whatever. It leaves room for people because human dignity allows people to choose their path, what they choose to believe. Human dignity first. Anyway, so if you haven't heard about Catholic social teaching, I encourage you to maybe Google it, ask your favorite ChatGPT or favorite large language model to tell you what the Catholic social doctrine is, how it would affect our world today if we implemented it. Because again, currently the extremes are either the corporations get super strong or the government gets super strong and they crush people. In America currently, I think we're seeing the rise of both. We're having super strong corporations that are watching everything we do through our phones, the cameras, kind of like big brothers here, right? So in America, we have super strong corporations, Microsoft, Amazon, and all these big corporations that are like just controlling everything, taking over our government. But now we're seeing the rise of a very strong government, and they're together, and they're not really treating the middle class very well. Instead of us calling for human dignity for corporations and government to treat people well, instead we're falling into the trap of fighting each other, which is a very old tactic. As long as we're fighting each other, we don't ask for things to improve. We're busy fighting each other. But so just to clarify, human dignity should come first. We should be calling for corporations to respect the rights of humans and the government to respect the rights of humans and to take care of the most vulnerable in society. Don't get sidetracked. Don't get manipulated to believe these. You have to either be a Christian nationalism who believes that corporations need to be super strong, or you need to just, believe in this complete, very authoritative government, and just everything's all emotion and it's all chaotic. No, there's a place for both. Serve human dignity for everyone, especially the most vulnerable and the least. Anyone have any questions? I'm going 34 minutes. Thank you so much for dropping in, dropping out, whatever. I appreciate it. My name's Enrique. You can call me Enrique or Kike. I was born in California, Los Angeles. I live in Texas now. I'm autistic. I have ADHD. I'm a hospice nurse. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts, studied a lot of art history courses. So I learned about human civilization through the arts, from prehistoric to modern, postmodern. I learned about civilization through the arts, through sculptures, through paintings, through the artist. And I also have a Bachelor of Science in Nursing, so with healthcare, biology, anatomy, medicines, pharmacology, stuff like that. So my brain loves to be well-rounded. I'm super interested in AI and the future of society. I do believe it's time to stop repeating the same old patterns of the past. I think we've made mistakes with powerful empires taking over. The story of Star Wars, the Galactic Empire tries to bring imbalance by crushing people. I love Avatar: Last Airbender, the Fire Nation coming over, destabilizing the world, enforcing their culture on everyone else, crushing people, exploiting people. I'm tired of that kind of world. All of human history, we look back, we've always had empires: Egypt, Babylon, Greece, Rome, England, Spain, America. There's always these empires that are exploiting, crushing. And I do believe it's time that we leave that empire system, move to something more like, less like Star Wars, where the empire's destabilizing everything and we have to need the Jedi to return order and balance, and more towards a world more like Star Trek, where we say, you know what, we have AI, we have tech, we have automation. It's time for the nations to collaborate. We don't need empires exploiting the world anymore. We don't need empires exploiting the poor, the vulnerable, the weak. We need a society that, again, puts human dignity of everyone first. Even the Africans, even the people in South America and Central America, in China, everyone treated with human dignity, especially the most marginalized. We collaborate, we work together, we bring our best ideas forward to move together as a planet. We don't get to do that, though, right now, because the people in power don't want to let go of the reins. They like having all the money, they like having all the power. And for us to collaborate and to take care of the poor means that they don't get to be the top of the pyramid, and they don't want to let go of those reins right now. So my name's Enrique. You can call me Enrique or Kike. I used to be ashamed of the name Kike, but that's the name I was called growing up. I wanted to be more, strong and masculine, so I started to go by my birth certificate name, Enrique. But I'm embracing Kike too. That's my original name. I'm a dancer. I'm an artist. I'm a nurse. I used to be a teacher. I love history, culture, religion, civilization, philosophy, ethics, AI. I love respecting the religions of the past, of our ancestors, and I love looking forward to the possibility of what AI and what new technologies can do for us. And I think it's fascinating to discuss all the pitfalls and all the places where things can go wrong, where our AI, where our neural links, where our uploading our consciousness into the cloud and having communication between the internet and our brains, how all that stuff can go Black Mirror and weird. I love discussing ethics and AI. I use dance as a way to process emotion, stress, anxiety, depression. I love the dancers. I think they have a very important role in processing information, pain, and trauma, and helping us move forward as a human race, a human family, working together, collaborating the nations and stuff. So anyhow, thank you for listening. I'm kind of new. I had this TikTok channel. So his YouTube channel is a little bit old. I've been mostly on TikTok. You can find me there, Rosary and Rhythm. You can find me there, Enrique on the Floor. Enrique on the Floor is mostly my dance channel, positivity. It does get emotional sometimes, but Rosary and Rhythm is more like ethics, religion, Catholicism. They're slowly coming together because it's just me. I feel like there's two opposites in my head that are always battling, but it's just me. So I'm trying to bring them together. Autism, ADHD, all kinds of things, dogma, religion versus open-ended, chaotic spirituality. I find the beauty in both, and I think there needs to be a harmony between a lot of these opposites, bring balance. And it's just me. It's one person, so trying to integrate everything. Nice to meet everyone. Enrique, Kike, y'all take care, okay? Little heart sign, heart sign, heart sign. This is the new heart sign. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.